How's it going, everybody? The Warriors didn't just concluded, and there is quite a bit to talk about. I will not bore you with the Kensei skin, or the new armors, or the Halloween event. I mean, you've seen it. If you've been around for a while, you can probably guess when and how I will show you all that. What we're focusing on today are all the small changes that Ubisoft has shown us on the stream. We'll speculate a little, but at the end of the day, we'll obviously need to wait until we can test ourselves whether these changes are working as they're supposed to. Just like in the beginning of the season, there is a plethora of small changes to multiple heroes, so let's just look through them. Actually, hang on, something else first. Match inflow. You can now skip everything, at least that's what they're saying. I do not trust the UI team until I've seen it myself, but if this is true, then it's an amazing change. Alright, actual changes now. The first thing we are looking at are iframe numbers. Even for me, it's hard to tell the implication of each and every one of these. It should mean slight differences against specific mix-ups, but these are all buffs except for the bottom shaman one, if I'm understanding correctly. In short, you should be able to dodge attack more things and also more reliably. I'm sure that's what everyone wanted to hear. Moving on, Kensei changes. With the new skin come the buffs to the hero. I'm sure people out there will say exactly that. In short, it is way easier now to get into Kensei's offense. He is no longer as easily interruptible, especially when it comes to pommel strike as before. With the speeding up of attacks, the damage also comes down. And if you read carefully, you can also see that the second side heavy is not changed, meaning the guard break punish also did not change. With all these attacks being faster, he should have an easier time to make use of his big hitboxes in teamfights. The downside is now that the hit reaction got reduced to medium. Granted, a heavy hit reaction is massive. We only have a few attacks that do this, and it does allow for some specific ganks, for example. Warmonger is one of these examples. So, despite the faster attacks, defending against Kensei's mix-ups should be almost unchanged in terms of dodging and the parry timings. We'll take a closer look when we get our hands on him. Then Zhonhu. The first change is amazing in my opinion. As it is right now, if a Zhonhu lands a light, you can buffer a light in response to beat the finish unblockable heavy and always interrupt it. This should no longer be the case. In my opinion, chain offense should be strong, and mindlessly hammering on the light button should not counter even more than it already does. The guard break soft feint shouldn't change too much timing wise. JC specifically mentioned rolls, so that is what we'll test first, I guess. Though then the recovery on whiffing finishes is debatable. Everyone has a different opinion here. Some like that it's GBable, others not so much. Moving on to JJ then. Some of these changes are a little peculiar. Starting with the choke ones. That move is plenty strong already, albeit a niche use. You waste revenge with it. Removing damage reduction might make it quite a lucrative ganking tool. It depends on the exit reaction of Jungjun himself. Depending on how far back he moves and when he recovers again, this might be quite an easy confirm of 50 plus damage. The input window change is great though. The two zone changes are questionable depending on how you look at it. In 1v1s, the unblockable zone was always useless as offense. Slowing it down won't do anything. Slowing down the parry zone nerfs its utility in teamfights. Most people already dodge when they anticipated it coming. Now they will probably do it on reaction to see in orange. Slowing it down might also mean having a longer lingering hitbox. We'll see if this is actually a nerf or a hidden buff that might catch early dodges depending on angle. The damage nerfs are very welcome though. He certainly was a menace with the finisher heavies. Then Shinobi. Many of you might have seen my poll where I ask for the most problematic hero at the moment, and while most voted Pirate, in my eyes there isn't even a question that Shinobi once again takes the crown, as can be seen by these nerfs here. The first change is another fix attempt of the unlock tech. Let's see if it sticks this time. And then two massive revenge number changes. You will no longer chain multiple sickle rains one after the other when having them confirmed. We are looking at 75 revenge from a single one, which should mean that we can expect more kicks after backflips now. But yeah, more nerfs will hopefully come soon. Character is an abomination. Or next up, other changes. First, input comfort of parry riposte. This might have a side effect. While I love quality of life changes like that in general, the window being up to 700 ms is quite big. What this could mean, depending on coordination, is that this might become a more common gank from parries. We know we can do this with Warmonger's Impale already, squeeze in an attack before the Impale. We've never tested whether the riposte bashes reset hit stun, so depending on the interaction here, this could be quite interesting. Then for Black Prior, one amazing change and one highly questionable one. Backstab lights are insanely annoying, especially BPs. I very much welcome this change. How severe the nerf is, we'll have to see. And then the zone buff, the 700 MS zone had its purpose. It was used to check for scripters, and in general it beats people dodging early on orange. Now with 600 MS we have an overlapping dodge timing between forward dodge bash and zone attack. I hope this change will get reverted. He doesn't really need the gladiator zone, his normal bash fills that role already. It is a 100-500 bash after all. And then the Jormungandr. Zone stamina cost reduction is great, it costs 20 now, and hitbox changer are also always welcome. These always require testing, so we better do some before and after. And we also know he'll get a rework next season, so this is all probably in anticipation to that. Zerka is next. Her running attack has hyper armor now. Then Nusha's Garbrick vulnerability on her zone got fixed, it's down to 100 MS. Then Gladiator got buffed by making his in-chain hostile 500 MS. And then Pirate. The soft feint removal fixes the last frame parry issue she had. And then for the Pistol Blast Chain Link. Let me explain, since this was something she had during her early access, but it was removed for her release. When Pirate lands a heavy and then does her gunshot and then tries to chain in to walk the plank, at the moment, if you try to dodge attack the walk the plank, she can catch that dodge attack with her feint to Garbrick. With this change here, she will no longer be able to do that. The question now is whether she can still catch it after a normal heavy into walk the plank, without doing the gunshot. Because this is something I want to see more of. We also have this on Conqueror's Scutage Collection and the Uppercut. What I'm getting at here is that characters should be able to sacrifice something, like in Pirate's case, the added damage from the gunshot, to lock heroes down, making it harder to blindly dodge attack everything all the fucking time. You'll get a separate video in the future about that, or you watch my old one during the CCU update, as I was calling it back then already, that dodging out of chain offense will be quite annoying, and lo and behold. And as a last thing, the Garbrick changes made it into the game. I'll just refer you to my dedicated video from the last testing round. It's an amazing change, and props to Ubisoft for implementing it in such a timely manner. Thank you very much. Then we'll quickly talk about the upcoming testing round on November 17th. JC mentioned it on stream, so I guess I can also say that we did test this change during our visit in Montreal. And from these 4 points here on screen, the bottom 3 are great. I don't really want to talk much about them at the moment. We'll do a deep dive when the TG rolls around. What I do want to talk about specifically though is the very first point, making all dodge heavies light parries, which I think is a terrible idea. We cannot do a blanket change and ignore all these additional properties that define dodge attacks. From hitbox size and trajectory to undodgeable, unblockable, feintable, soft feintable, the chain options to speed and all that. There are so many things that are being disregarded here. There needs to be exceptions, and each and every dodge attack needs to be looked at individually and then decided whether it's a light or a heavy parry. Giving in to Reddit crybabies that demand everything to be a light parry is nonsensical and a bad approach. Regarding the side dodge bashes, Gladiator's bashes were always kind of useless. This makes them even worse. And Sugar was tethering on the brink of not being picked anymore already, but this will seal the deal. Once again, these moves need to be looked at individually. Lawbringer's Shove, for example, being immune to guard breaks and many dodge attacks is a problem, no doubt. But I don't think this warrants that they all work the same. But yeah, that's it really. If they release the blog post, I will link it in the video description. I don't know at the moment of recording this. So yeah, let me know what change you want a more in-depth explanation of, or if anything is unclear. Having said that, hope the video was helpful. Thanks for watching. Laters everybody.